felt this way. How are you doing? You look good. Jesus. I'm
I'm all
I'm
right. I've been through a what, like a 10-day feeling of being hit by a train and
yeah.
quite unwell and just really completely fucked, completely wiped out for for I mean for literally 10 days, and it's only in the past day or two that I've started
Yeah.
to really feel good again. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's been the first part of January for me, and that has felt like a really useful thing, because what's happened for me. I mean, I've been running a temperature. Are we live now?
Yeah. Yeah. But
Okay,
they're
cool.
still coming in another minute.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I've been running quite a high temperature, and I know when that's happening that a lot is being burnt out of my system,
Yeah.
and so the shittiest stuff, the usual sort of deep self-doubt, self-hatred, all of this stuff coming. You think, really, is this still there's more of this still to come? And it's you the lovely thing is that I no longer believe it in the way that I used to. So it's just like, okay, welcome it up, just create space for it and put it on the bonfire, as it were. And
Yeah.
but it's been a very profound clearing again, and I think a lot of us are in this sort of preparation now, and maybe for what you were
Yeah. I
just
think
talking
that's what
about.
it is. I think that's what we were talking about last night, Morgan and I was all you get, well, I know it's gone on, repeatedly and slowly
Yeah.
has come in and then middle around October the 10th. Like I don't know about you, but like from from the 10th through maybe it has something to do with these numbers, the ones and the twos.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
you got October, November, December, January, February, they're all ones and twos. And so you have the 10th, 11th, 12th, and then the 20, 21, 22. So that period seems to have been like there seems to have been a cyclical nature. October was the 10th through the 20th. It was pure hell. Like it was. And then November, that same period, it was a little bit lighter, still pretty rough. In December, same thing. And then I didn't feel it as much this time with the, like say old loops popping up, but physically. And then today was just, like I feel like somebody just hammered me. But
yeah,
but that's what we were talking about. So many times we go like it feels like we're being prepared for something, but this time it's like the final preparation. Like I think it kind of started like the end of the last week of the year. There was like this giant sucking sound. It's like just everything. So I wake up this morning and I'm sitting there going, I usually get up at least 2 hours before the first show so I can really connect with the higher self and all that. And it's like, you know, it was like an hour. It was like an hour ago. And I'm laying there
mm,
going, how am I going to do this? And then I look, oh, who's on today? Oh, okay, well, David. All right, that's cool. We can be fucked together. And then I started, getting and I saw the first thing I saw was on the news feed a very good friend of mine who was just bearing their soul. I'm like, whoa. Like I know this person like 6, 7 years, and they're like, man, I am fucked. And I'm just gonna put it out there because I know I'm not alone. I thought, wow, this is a powerful post. And the next one I saw was from another guy, and he was like, I'm gonna start speaking direct with people. I don't care what they say. Get ready. I thought, well, there it is. There's this final purge, and then there's also with that, comes the space of further realization or awareness where it's just we're past the we're in the no bullshit zone.
yeah,
Totally right. So
yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
And I know how it works for me often because I did a piece, like I was busy through December and over the beginning of the year doing a lovely deep piece of work with a group of people on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to take a couple of weeks off because I'm tired. I need some time, and I know when I when I'm when I'm taking time off, that's because otherwise I'm working every week, and there's not the space to go to
Mm,
really fall apart in a sense. So when I
yeah.
take a bit of time off, then there's the space, and so. that's what happens. It's like a huge dismantling. And I literally felt as if my system was being opened up, all of the layers, all of the levels pulled apart, and
Yeah.
just a real sort of internal scourging was going on. Very
Yeah.
profound, very lovely, but but not never pleasant. It's never a lovely thing.
Well,
So
I
so, but the thing that I mean, I've been out most days walking. I've got a really lovely dog that is a really nice element in my life in the past year, and
don't.
so I'm out walking with him, and we've had the most extraordinary weather here, just beautiful, beautiful, warm sunshine, not like January at all, and the energy from the sun has been unbelievable. I
Yeah.
mean, this is the most. I've never felt anything like it.
Yeah.
Just these. It's not even codes anymore. It just feels like there's this extraordinary enveloping of energy that
Yeah.
I'm experiencing from the sun. And one of the things that I was made aware of over this piece of work, January, the 31st of December, January the 1st, was that we know there's this huge energetic connection between the sun and the earth, but what I experienced in a way I've never experienced it before was that there is this beautiful plan. There is this plan, and the plan is held between the heart of the earth and the heart of the sun. And it's unfolding now. There's nothing going to stop this plan. It's just unfolding. And all we have to do now is allow the little plan for our personal lives to be enfolded by that big plan.
Yeah.
It's like we can give up the worrying, we can give up the scurrying around, we can
Yeah.
give up the fretting, and just allow the lines of energy that represent our personal life to be enfolded and enveloped and slip into the bigger, stronger lines of energy that represent the plan for the planet, for humanity, for the solar system, for whatever, because it's going according to plan. Even if it looks like a shit show at the moment, it is
Yeah.
going according to plan. And there is this beautiful, beautiful plan unfolding, and we're a part of that plan.
Yeah.
And so that has felt really, really beautiful because it's very simple and but very profound. Give up the worrying, give up the trying to organize it, and allow yourself to be held and supported and enfolded into the plan, because you don't have to worry about the details. It's just
Yeah.
rest now, and that's what I'm being told. So
Yeah. I could have easily stayed in bed all day. I could feel, but
it's funny because a couple of hours ago I was thinking, I wonder is Todd gonna cancel this one and revisit meditate? And I
no,
thought, well, if he does, it's fine. We'll do it again at some other point.
yeah.
But I was
No,
I
you
was
picked up on
wondering.
it. Well, the third one that I saw today was, uh, and I think this is the only three things I actually looked at. A couple of messages, but and it was one of those. We got to do this and we got to do that and we've got to stand up now and we've got to get our sovereignty and yeah, I know there's an element of truth to that, but I was reading it going, no, we ain't got to do nothing. This is happening, and
Yeah.
you actually just said it perfectly eloquently, like allowing that which is forming to encapsulate our personal timelines. And like as you were saying that, I'm thinking, yeah, I have no concerns, no worries that I'll be reunited with Morgan or whatever else there might be at all. Like
Mm.
it's like the linear. I'm not going to go there. Because if I mean, you're right. There's something bigger going on here. I was telling you about that video, and in that video, and I've heard this, and we've all heard this many times, that this is the end of a 26,000 year cycle.
Yeah.
It's on the up, uh, and it's happening. Regardless, it's just happening. And there's 1,000 years. What she was saying in the video was that anytime there's a 26,000 year cycle, and it hits this point, that there's always the 1,000 years that they call the 1,000 years of peace.
Mm.
And that 1,000 years is the best part of the ascension uh, incline. And so I thought, well, shit, I'm staying around for this. I'm just hoping that I start. I hope I start to, you know, find the fountain of youth or something. But I tell you what, there was another thing I watched last night, which is incredible. Robert Sepper, everybody knows I love Robert Sepper of Atlantean Gardens, and he did a 1 hour video production, and I don't remember the exact title of it. It's his last one, and the name Serpent, like the power of the serpent or the myth of the serpent, is the title. But in the last 20 minutes, there is a Tao master who's talking about sacred sexuality,
Mhm.
and he's talking about the bio, what does he call it, bioelectromagnetics of it. And it was so good to go to bed listening to that and then go to bed, because it was talking about the sexual energy, and obviously the relationship between the physical and the non-physical, so to speak, the chi, but how that when we hit a certain point and we bring the physical and the non-physical together, and that doesn't mean ejaculation, it doesn't mean orgasm, that what we're actually, and love is involved. So there's love in the sacred sexuality frequency. And when that occurs, that what actually happens is that the cell splits, and this affects the stem cells, and the whole body
Mhm.
starts to regenerate. And it was pretty amazing, some of the stuff he was talking about, because the root of the whole thing was the what is it, the serpent in the tree of life, and then he went all through the different civilizations and showing what that same figure was. Like in the Greek, it was Prometheus. What did
Mhm.
Prometheus do? He stole the fire and gave it to mankind. The Native Americans have the coyote or the white rabbit, stole the fire, gave it to mankind. And so what he was saying was that it's a dualistic thing, that stealing, and that's where it got the bad connotation, which it wasn't meant to be, is one part of it. But the actual, what it's actually describing is this sacred sexual opportunity, where when you steal the fire is when you hold it within yourself. It's the life force. It's actually uh, God. Is that point where you have the choice to either go animal or to rebirth it, the energy within yourself. It was really interesting.
That's, I mean, that's lovely. But as you were speaking there, I was getting a sense when you talked about the splitting of the cells, that with that there's like an internal baptism that happens where light force just flushes right through the
Yeah,
system and baptizes everything anew in a sense. So there is this rejuvenation that happens, whereas sexuality, from the other perspective, from the addictive,
right.
needy perspective, drains your life force. You know,
That's
it just
exactly what he said.
empties you out. You know,
Yeah, that's exactly what
so.
the guy said. Uh, that's exactly what he said, and it makes total sense.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw that as you were speaking, that
Yeah.
flushing of energy. I mean,
So, what
it's
kind of?
beautiful.
You said that you've been through 10 days of time off, or acclimation, or
Well, I mean, I
integration.
took time off from the beginning of January, just because it's been an intense end of the year, and the solstice was extraordinary, and lovely, beautiful, very, very powerful. But then I think all of those huge downloads and influxes and integrations, often I don't realize how tired I actually am, because I'm offering quite a lot of teleconferences and stuff,
Mm,
uh, and then I take some time off, and it's like, so the body just goes into a big process of just um, dismantling, a real dismantling. And this one has felt very deep, because I'm in a place now where I see it's like, I don't know. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing, what the next
yeah.
piece of work is. Is there another piece of work?
Right.
Even, am I staying in this location? Is it time to sell this apartment and move and go somewhere? It feels like everything is in a state of flux, and that's sometimes that's uncomfortable, but it's a useful place to be in, I think, just to allow everything to shift and find maybe a
Yeah.
slightly different form, or maybe a very different form. Who knows?
Yeah.
I've been told recently now, and it's been made clear to me, I haven't done much one-to-one energy work since August, and every time I've come to put it back on my on my website as an offering, I've really felt like no. And then there was an interesting thing sometime in December where, and this has happened often for me, not often, 3 or 4 times over the years. I've never liked the word healer. It's never been a word that I have been comfortable with, never a word that I have used about myself. And 3 times, or 3 or 4 times over the past 25 years, I've been asked, will you use this word? And each time I've thought, no, I'm not interested. And it was asked again in December, will you use this word to to describe the work you do? And I sat with it, and as I sat with it, I was made aware that by not allowing that word, I was denying a set of frequencies that I had
Mm,
worked with in other lifetimes that were wanting to be a part of my overall makeup.
mm,
And I was holding them at bay simply because I didn't like the word in a sense. And so I said, okay, I'll use that word. I'll allow that. And something shifted in my field, and I thought, okay, maybe now it's time to go back to offering one to one. So I went to start writing it up in my on my website. I feel I thought, no, I'm really not interested in doing it that way. And so I don't know what this was about yet because I haven't done much, but I think there was a shift in frequency, simply another integration of an aspect of me that I was in denial of.
right.
Um, if that makes sense, you know.
Makes total sense.
Uh,
It makes total
I don't,
sense.
and I think something shifted in terms of the energy work that happens on the teleconferences
Well,
that I offer.
somebody I ran into yesterday told me that they participated in the one on at the end of the year, the new year, and
Yes,
they
the
said it was,
Friday,
yeah, they said it was
Friday and Saturday.
Friday, Saturday. They said it was incredible, and I'm
It
like,
really was. I mean, it was, but often, you know, we hold space. There was over 100. I mean, it was a 5 hour piece of energy work, 2.5 hours on the Friday, 2.5 hours on the Saturday. I was thinking a traditional sort of New Year offering, you know, a letting go of the old and opening to the new, you know, all of that sort of stuff. Always there are elements that come in that take me by surprise.
right,
Energies show up and say we want to be a part of this. You know, this time the mountains show up. So there were this range of mountains. The mountain being showed up and wanted to be a part of the
really,
teleconference, which was phenomenal. They've never showed up in that way before. Often the tree beings show up, or you know, the nature spirits are always there. The lion-headed beings are always there. There's always some element that
so
comes
you had
in.
the mantids come in. Did they
No, the
have any?
mountain, the mountain,
Oh, the
the mountains,
mountains.
the mountains. Yeah. So
Wow,
the mountain beings showed up, and everybody
wow.
could feel their energy. And then there was this extraordinary silver energy from a planet that I don't know the name of, came in and graced us with its presence, and that was a very strong.
Now, do you
That was
have
a very
everybody?
strong
Do you
download.
have everybody? It's in a Zoom, right? It's a Zoom.
It's in a Zoom, but I don't have the cameras turned on because there were over 100 people on this, so
Yeah, that's hard to
would
do.
be
Yeah.
it would be for me it would be hard to do.
So do you put yourself on screen or do you have visuals
For a
or
part of the time,
okay, yeah.
I'm on, you know, when we're just chatting at the opening outset and stuff, the video will be on, but for the most part it's off. Otherwise I get distracted by seeing myself on the screen, you know.
Well, I never
So
heard you go ahead, go ahead. Go ahead.
so there are all of these elements that come in and participate, and I just recognize that it's a really lovely piece of, you know, very personal energy work. Everybody gets what they need in these teleconferences, but it's also because we've been working for years and we've co-created a very lovely field of energy. Then the beings that work with us are always delighted to use the opportunity to work at a planetary level too. Um,
Yeah.
and I think the same would happen wherever there's a regular gathering. Then that becomes a field of energy that can be utilized
Yeah.
for the ascension process, if you like.
No, I get you. I get you.
And
Uh
so it was a very strong piece of energy work. I was totally taken by surprise by it. It was lovely, and I think I will probably go on to do more of this year. But at the moment, I have no idea. You know.
Hell, I can't see past after this show's over. Uh, so a couple things. Well, you're right about that. Now, I can think of many occasions, but two in particular, when Morgan and I had that divine union ceremony in 2018 on the spiral that my friend had created in homage to her son who had transitioned. In part, yeah, she had made one for the download she'd received, with the intel she received. It had to do with that, and then she made another one after he transitioned, and we got married there. And if you there's a 37-minute video, and then there's a 9-minute video, a short version. But if you look at it, even if you look at it, I've had many people tell me you can see the galactic presence, right? And of course, on that day, I remember when we got over there, there was like these three hawks, so there was that organic thing, and of course there's a lot of trees around. And then at Soulogy Fest, um, I remember, I think it was the first day, uh, and I introduced Franco, and I went and sat on the ground in this tent. All the chairs were taken. I was off to the side, so I was sitting on the red dirt, and I'm looking down at the dirt, and all I can see are all these galactic faces of different species. And in that moment, Franco is talking to everybody, and he's talking to everybody. He says, "Oh my God!" And he looked over at me. He said, "Todd, you got a lot of friends here." But so I mean, more than one person saw it. But I think you're right. I think when there's a
Yeah,
gathering of kind of a mutual collective intent, and I picture your what you do, like what you did at New Year's Eve. Everyone's coming there open with their dreams, with their everything, and it just feels like, both on an individual level and, like you were saying, as they approach it, at least in part, for the planetary
yeah.
opportunity, that it's all being met.
And that now you're doing these the silent get-togethers, huh?
Well, yeah. I mean, I just do the tech part. I mean, I guess I participate as well. But yeah, Yvonnya and Morgan came up with that. I don't know when, and those are really interesting because nothing's said.
Mm,
Now, the first couple of them I remember distinctly being really profound, and not that the others haven't been, but it was new, right?
yeah,
And so then the next three or four, it's I would say more of like for me anyway, it was more of like a meditative. There wasn't a lot of action, but it was energetically, it was great. But this last one, as I'm participating, it was just like golden explosions of golden energy and just all this like powerful. And I remember Morgan had made a drawing years ago, and she showed it to me 2, 3, 4 years ago, and it was a circle of people, and there were golden strands shooting up like in a pyramid, shooting up into, I think, a ring or something. But it was describing what that feels like, or
what
what
you had
you're
seen,
talking
and
about, where everybody comes together, and
yeah,
there's like a vortex, and it's a high frequency vortex that's enhanced because of the numbers, I guess, is the way
yeah.
I'd put it. Yeah,
It's enhanced because of the numbers, and certainly with my thing, there's a regularity. People show up week after week, which
yeah,
always
that would
amazes
be,
me. But they,
yeah,
that makes a big difference. And some people have been doing these teleconferences with me for 6 years now. Some people have hardly missed, you know, hardly missed a one sort of thing, and that's staggering to me. But these become powerful. We used to gather in temples. We used to create temples and build temples, and now we create energetic structures that are planetary, but these are temples too, that are utilized then by um, by the extraordinary level of support that we have in this process. And I think this is another thing that keeps being um, pressed home to me is that there is this vast level of support. And often I can fall
Mm.
into a place, and it's happened in the past few days, where I have felt very alone and very, what's the point? There's no fucking, all of this sort of stuff, the usual stuff I go into when I'm deep in my shadow.
Oh,
Um, but there is this never ending support that is literally just a breath away. So as soon as I get out of my head or my messy emotional body and into my heart, that support is right there. Or
yeah,
as soon as I look at the sun and feel the just the intelligence of that being and this extraordinary level of love that is holding this planet that comes from that being,
yeah.
then there is no doubt that, oh my God, this is a really special time we're in
It
now. And
is.
it does
Yeah,
feel, because I have the energy of the sun seems to be ramping up on a daily basis.
yeah,
And
yeah.
as I said, for some reason we've got this extraordinary weather pattern at the moment. So the sun is rising and setting, and I'm right on the sea, and everything looks golden all day long. And
Yeah.
it's I know there's a purpose to that, in a sense. I know there's a
Yeah.
purpose. It's breathtaking.
It's
One
like,
of the things we did, I just wanted to say this. One of the
go
things we
ahead.
did on this New Year retreat, we did just a very simple water ceremony where I got everybody to have a glass of water. And at times we would hold the water and pour energy into the energies we were receiving into the water and offer them to the water. And then at the end, I invited everybody to sip a bit of their water, but also take it to a body of water in their locality, whether it was a
Wow,
stream or a
that's
lake or a,
powerful. That's a
yeah.
powerful
And
thing.
it
Yeah.
was, I mean, a lot of people wrote back to me afterwards and said that that was a really moving thing to do, but a very simple thing to do. And we can all do tiny little ceremonies like that.
Yeah.
To hold a glass of water and get it to it, or that pour energy into it, love, gratitude, the energies from the sun, whatever, and then take it to the sea, to a lake, to your sink, to the toilet, pour it, knowing that those energies will affect the whole body of water.
Yeah.
And I think simple little things like that can make a really, really significant difference to the energy field of the planet.
Absolutely. I mean, this is, I mean, there's so much evidence of this, like Dr.
Yeah.
Emoto's. And I'm not saying that just because he was working with water, but it goes back, it all ties in together. Like even the Robert Seppert production I was talking about, because essentially what what he's talking about, which has been passed down from day one, all the civilizations, right? Uh, because this has to do with regeneration of the body. It has to do
Mhm.
with just ramping up everything, and it's life force.
Yeah.
But uh, what it is basically with the image or the content being around intimacy, which all throughout the production, and even if you look at myth, it's not literal, it's all metaphor.
Mm.
So the metaphor of the sanctity and the sacredness, like he even used the term, like approaching it like a religious, like a spiritual ritual. So what you're talking about is the same thing. You've approached this with two or more. You've got a ritual ceremony type of atmosphere. You're including as many frequencies as possible.
Mm.
And I didn't know, by the way, that it was a regular thing for the trees to show up, the nature beings, and now you're talking about the mountains, because I that to me is what I feel closest to, all of that stuff, right? Like I can get to the other, but to me, uh, that would just like you're just widening the circle. And then with the water, it's almost like the disciples. They go out and light
And
up
these
some.
things that I don't conjure those up. These are things when I'm meditating in the hours before a teleconference. They show up and say, "Oh, we would like to be included in this one," and so it's lovely because it's always a shifting palette of energies and frequencies, and it's very beautiful, very lovely, very
Man, that would be
always
cool if
very different.
that would be cool if you like put a camera on you when you connected. and just like spoke out what was happening. That would be so cool.
Well, I mean that's because as we're going, I'm speaking,
Yeah,
and look, and okay, these energies are coming in now. This is, and often I'm taken by surprise by who shows up. It's
yeah.
always, um, it's lovely. Sometimes it's winged horses, sometimes it's the dragon frequencies. It's uh, it's always a moving palette, and
You got a strong connection to the elemental, don't you? I mean, I don't know
yeah,
if that's the right classification or genre. I don't know how many there are, but the dragons, the nature, the lion, even the lion people. To me, the lion people are kind of a bridge to me. Like I know we've walked the earth as them, but I also know
yeah.
that they're what we would call galactic, or other planetary beings.
Yeah, they always when they showed up first for me, it started off as a connection with lions, and then they morphed and shifted into the lion-headed beings, and they would take me on journeys to temples on planets in maybe in other systems, I don't know, but and at one point I found myself having my feet bathed by Sekhmet, which was an
Wow.
extraordinary thing, and I was in a temple that were all of those Egyptian animal-headed gods
Yeah.
around the temple, but they were all real. They were all living beings. They weren't the
Yeah.
statues that we know. And I just understood that this is our vast history.
Yeah.
And the lion-headed beings explained to me that I'm one of them. Just I'm in this body now,
That's
but
pretty
in other.
obvious. That's pretty obvious that you're.
But I think because their DNA was some of the founding DNA of life on this planet. And they explained that it was their job to gather DNA from all over the universe and bring it here to kickstart life. So they're
Yeah.
part of the origination of life here and probably in many other dimensions and star systems too. So they're part of our deep ancestry, I think. And everybody on the teleconferences feels this very deep connection with them because they're always in attendance, always helping to activate deeper levels of our DNA and helping to open us up to these other frequencies and realms that we already exist in, but we're still slightly veiled and cloaked from. And I think those cloaks are falling away rapidly now, and
Yeah.
it's yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me what this woman, what's meant to be happening tomorrow?
My brain is like I can't even. But basically that, and again, her. And so for those who just joined us, there's a video Morgan put up on her page 2 days ago. A friend of ours sent it to us. I just happened to watch it last night. Well, I would say like her information is a combination of like Franco's type of intel with, like, I would just say some foreshadowing in say the near future, and then the type of intel that you have or Morgan has, like kind of like you know the bones, boots on the ground. What does
Uh-huh.
that mean? That all sounds great, but what does that mean? What does that look like? Today in the southern hemisphere, tomorrow the 21st, was the sixth wave from the central sun, and this is the wave that, like, for anyone, for anyone that's I guess in so many words done the work, that they're, I guess I'm just going to try to put it in my own words or my own understanding, which is like they're in a clear place, kind of like what's been leading up. With
The
everything that's been going
preparation we've all
on.
been
Yeah, like
engaged
with
in, huh?
everything that's been going on, like you said, the worries going away, the attachments everything's going away. So it's like we're the final, like you were talking about, the final thing, and that the seventh blast or seventh wave will be at the end of the year, and that at that point, which follows Franco's intel as well and other people's, that 40% of those here will be awake, and that it's that now we're going from this point to that point, and that's and because she goes into detail, you get how rapid this is. And if you think about Franco's intel, he talked about, and it sounded, I mean, I've always felt like his intel was, to me, I resonated with it the most. But he was talking about, 6 months, 8 months, a year ago, that in 2023 we would have councils that would be in leadership roles, and
Hmm.
they would not be made up of, the traditional leaders. They would be made up of people like you, okay, and that was a little bit. Oh, that'll be. I guess we're going to move fast, kind of thing was going in my head. But now I can see that if this, because she talks about the the aspects of the physical transformation, the hell on the body. She said this is going to happen. Like, you're going to feel this and you're going to feel that. And to basically have a relationship with it, like you talked about these past few days where you've had a fever and you accept it, or even the thing about the healer, because it's still energy, right? Like, I'm going to accept that. So the constriction and the resistance to it goes away and the flow is
Yeah.
better. But yeah, that's just, I mean, to me, like we were talking last night, and I was just like, this thing is really moving fast. I mean, we've been saying that, but this is really palpable.
Yeah. And
And I
it
think
so
the last thing that I know Morgan's talked about for years, Franco talked about, this lady talked about, that once that seventh wave came, there'll be a whole boatload of people out there who know something's going on, and because of also the chaos and so on, they're looking around and they're seeing these illuminated beings, and then the work starts to
mm,
assist these people. Now, that's been a narrative that's been out there for a long time by a lot of people, but that would make sense to me.
yeah. So in sometime last week, I was told, uh, okay, you've got to get your body strong because it's got to carry a lot of energy. And there are, what was shown to me was I was just told there are going to be these downloads starting now, which are spherical. So like planets of energy coming into the body, and your body has to be strong in order to be able to hold these frequencies. And that was just a very clear, it was like you're getting ready for these downloads now. They're going to be happening in the next couple of weeks. They'll be starting in the next couple of weeks. So
That's what that's falls in line with what she was saying. And I
yeah.
woke up this morning and I'm like, and I told Morgan, I just talked to her briefly. I said, I guess I'm, because I've been drinking juice since June, but it was the dominant. I was like 90%, 95% of my diet, and I've backed off, but probably averaged about 75, right? And but I got up this morning and I told her, I said, I guess it's just going to be water and juice. I can feel my body, telling me that's it.
That's all it wants, huh?
Even if you want to do something else, you can do it, but it's gonna bog you down. And somebody, and I don't know if it was this lady or it was somebody else I heard a couple days ago. And again, this has been said, and I've even said it, but there's certain things you say, and then you get to this higher level of knowing or experience, and that is that the body is the voice now.
Hmm.
Like, we used to have, let's say it's me and I'm talking to my higher self, but like what I was getting from what I was uh, observing and what was coming in was, this is it. This is the singular voice. The body is everything. As physical as it may seem, it's the driver. And I really feel like that's at least something to consider.
Yeah, because I think we've been living that separation, keeping the body and the
Mm,
physical world as separate from spirit, and so the personality has sat between our spirit and the body, thinking it's in charge in a sense. But the
mm,
the body and the spirit, in a sense, are one and the same thing.
mm,
And now there's much less of the friction from our personality. A lot of that stuff has been worn away, and so there's a much smoother interface, I think, between So the higher self is integrated into the body much, much more, and things can move as one, as it were. And we can still interfere and get in the way, but it becomes more and more painful to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And the other things I'm noticing too, which it all parallels, it's all intertwined, it all parallels. But the other thing I'm seeing too, since October, since this, since this last part of the roller coaster that we've been talking about, is this the physical presence of divine masculine energy, which has been very cool, like really cool. Uh, you know, we it's just shown up and more and more and more and more uh, with on this show, and
Yeah.
not by searching for it. It's just come out. It's come out in some of these couples. It's come out in individuals that just happen to come on. But yeah, there's something about that, like this part of us that we all have that's kind of like built a container within the container, so the outer container of the womb can expand again or something. I don't know, but overall, a calming, grounding, um, uh, strength. That just says, "Hey, I know the shit's flying everywhere, but it's all right. Everything's all right. It's going to be great. Let her roam. Let her be free." Right? Just
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that divine union that we all, it's inevitable in all of us, or it is all of us, or whatever, however you want to say it, is taking form in so many ways, so many different ways. So I've seen that.
And we need that, I think, in because often the feminine or an aspect of the feminine is the chaos,
Mhm.
and so we need that calm, surrendered strength just to be able to be in the chaos without being overwhelmed by it, in a sense. Something, a part of us that we can lean into and recognize, oh, it's okay, we're safe. We're safe no matter what's going on, because still think the world is heading into more chaos over the next
Mm.
bigger fields of chaos, and it's less and less. I can pay less and less attention to what's playing out, on the news channels, and I like to keep in touch with it. I like to keep, a finger on the pulse, as it were. But it just looks so ridiculous, the pantomime of
Isn't it?
politics and whatever. It's just like, oh,
So there's so see, I was talking to Morgan the other day again, and she was like, it's like you can see that energy trying, and
yeah,
nothing's working. Like nothing's working. So I get up today or last night or whatever it was, and I'm watching Boris. What's his name? Boris with the messy
Boris
hair.
Johnson, our great prime minister.
He's in Parliament or whatever you call it, and he's getting rid of all the restrictions. He's
Yeah,
saying we will not have mask mandate. It's all going away, and I'm like, what? Like, I mean, that's great, but like, how do you go from push, 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 and then just total okay, uncle? You know what I mean? I mean that's
it's
wild. So
yeah,
yeah,
it is.
there's more chaos, but there's also this. It's almost like uh, paradoxical energy and expressions, right? Like movements. It's like, well, it's cognitive dissonance, is what it
It is,
is.
and I feel sorry for that, because the people caught up in that world take themselves so seriously,
I
and
know.
it is, and it you can feel it as a field of energy that they're completely contained in, and it's like, this bubble of energy that they think is so important, and they're missing the real stuff, the stuff that is really significant, that's happening at these more subtle levels. And it's like, when I used to live in London, and I think all cities have this, they're a bit of their own bubble, and cities believe in their own importance, don't they? Whether it's New York or Paris or London, they all think they're the greatest city in the world,
Yeah.
and then you leave the city, and it's like, fuck me, that's just a bubble of egotism, really,
Yeah.
And life goes on all over the world that is totally independent of the cities and much, much more beautiful, and it runs at a different pace. And it's the same sort of thing, this recognition of how we spin our own realities and then think this. they're so all-consuming and important, but they're just the construct and the creation of our own ego for the most part,
Yeah.
until that falls apart and we start to be part of become part of something much much bigger and
Yeah.
hopefully more beautiful. You know.
Yeah, it's like a pocket of it's like we're like, I know you do a lot of work, energetic work, but like when there's a a constriction in an area or blockage, or what do you want to call it? I don't know, where you don't have the free flow of energy because there's a
Yeah.
tenseness or whatever. And it's like, I see it like that. Like the whole world is the body, and all these pockets you're talking about, these are all of our traumas. And then of course the programming manifesting and so on. And so those things they're breaking up.
Yeah.
But you're right. There's so many people that are just leaving and going out into nature, and boondoggling, or what all the stuff they talk, boondocking, and just getting an RV or a caravan, and taking off, or so many stories of that. So that dissipates the little power center, and then the conversion within it. So like I think of a couple of things. One, I still get a kick out of when the UK 3 or 4 months ago last year, and they said we're going to have this mandate, and the next thing you know, they're showing, I don't know the streets in London, but all these people come out at midnight because it took effect at midnight, and they're like, "Fuck this!" And all the people were just the cops are on the side of the street, and they're just watching them because there's nothing they could do. And
Yeah.
then I saw
Yeah.
one a couple of days ago that in Quebec, the PM came out and said, we are going to tax those who are not vaxxed. Within 24 hours, there was a petition signed by over 200,000 people to remove him from office. So
Mm.
there's, you know what I mean? So there's the larger picture of the body collective, and then there's those little pieces, which, made in the image, and each one of them is basically, to go back to that word that you've accepted, and I accept better now that I've heard you say it, is healing. It's healing that constriction or that blockage.
Yeah. I mean, I often see it that we have these bubbles of sometimes ancient trauma that where the energy gets locked at that age or in that time, and it still circulates in that time, and
Yeah,
we can pop those bubbles and the energy integrates, or you do the work and the bubbles shrink, and whatever. But it's like these little pockets all over the world are getting infiltrated, and people are waking up
yeah,
all the time. I mean, literally, you only have to spend a couple of minutes looking at the sun these days to know that something is different about
yeah,
the energy coming from the sun. It is quite extraordinary, and it's the same with nature. I mean, I walk. There's a lovely little park just around the corner from where I live, and I walk in there, and you can feel the energy of the nature spirits, and they're all sort of really happy and singing and dancing, and delighted to be recognized
wow,
and acknowledged by somebody. And that too is the same. The energies of the earth are are singing in a way that I think is strengthening all the time. So there's it's difficult, but it feels like champagne in a sense. There's this real fizz to the energy that I experience now, whether it's from the sun, whether it's from the earth, but the two together, and we are, in that sense, the masculine, feminine. The earth represents the feminine, the sun, the masculine, and we are the interface in a sense.
yeah,
Our
yeah,
heart becomes that point of conception where something truly, truly beautiful emerges. And I think that's why our ancestors, um, they recognized this deep connection between the earth and the sun, and the body, the human body, as a conduit between the two. And we're coming back into that recognition. And it can happen between two people as a sexual and
yeah.
loving union, but it can happen between the earth and the sun with the human body as a
And
partner in
yeah,
that divine connection. It's
exactly.
it's quite
That's where the
extraordinary.
cell splits. That's what I
Yeah,
was talking about earlier.
yeah,
It's not just the intimate act. The intimate act is a living metaphor of the whole kit and caboodle.
yeah.
I
For the
wish
act of creation, isn't it?
I wish I could remember how this. Dow Master explained it. But there was another little segment right before that, and it was a narrative by Alan Watts
Ah,
with animation, right? And he says, I was standing on a hill one day, and there was a wind, and through the wind, one of those, what are those little things that where you what is it, where you grab them and you make a wish and you blow them, those, what I'm talking about.
dandelions, we call it
Then,
dandelions.
yeah, so it was flying through the air. He grabbed it. It was flying freely with the wind. He grabs it, and then he goes into this little dissertation about it looks like it's trying to escape. It's like holding the leg of an insect. And then he starts to postulate, in other words, am I controlling this? What is this being? And he goes on to this whole train of thought where how the intelligence of this plant is greater than that of the insect, because
Hmm.
this plant just simply lets nature do everything, and he doesn't have to exert anything. And I thought, wow, that's kind of like wrapping up a good way to wrap up what we're talking about. Not wrap up the show, but I mean,
But I
kind of like,
think that's
yeah,
that's what I'm being shown. This thing of you can literally allow the lines of your life, of your individual life, to slip into the grooves of the bigger picture and
yeah,
to be held, because there is this beautiful synchronicity um, that is universal, and we are a part. We're an intimate part of this universal unfolding,
yeah,
um, but we can rest now. We've done the work, I think, and it's sort of time to rest and lean back into and sort of watch the show in a sense.
yeah.
I mean, of course, there'll be work for us to do, and you do what is presented, what lands at your feet for you to do, but it's like we can give up the struggle now, give up the struggle,
Mm,
give up the tension, give up the fear and the anxiety, because I think it's I think it can be lovely. And I can feel this every time I sit and meditate. I can feel the layer of created anxiety that I spin all
yeah,
the time.
yeah.
And interwoven within that is this layer of supreme ease and gentleness and softness that I could spend 90% of my time paying attention to. And then that's what I would expand and experience more of. And it's right there. And I know that if it's right there for me, then it's right there for all of us.
Yeah,
I know that.
yeah,
And I think this time is that we can really allow ourselves, and maybe there is a bit of a shit show coming, and even more important then to lean back into the arms of this universal support and say, here,
You
lead
can
me.
you can you can watch the you can watch this
Yeah.
and see the like you said, like the beauty of it, like the orchestration of it. One of the other things that lady talked about in the video, which serves what I just said, is that in a couple of ways. But I mean, she said that the reason that things are going the way they're going is because it's an alternative from a higher perspective and choice that we're all involved with. Where, in other words, instead of having another world war and bombs are going off, that this is a selective way for those who have chosen not to go 5D.
Uh-huh.
I'm just paraphrasing that in 2016, which again goes back to things I've heard Jason talk about, Franco talk about, and other people talk about. We were all given a choice. Do you want to go to 5D while you're incarnated or not? And those that don't will be leaving. And instead of dropping, bombs and having collateral damage of those who want to stay, you're having through the virus and the vaccine and other things, I would assume, where they're being selectively, chosen without any collateral damage.
Yeah.
And the video, I don't know. It's on Morgan's page. It's a couple of 2-3 posts down on Morgan's page. I don't know the name.
I saw it yesterday and I haven't looked at it, but I will look at it later on. And I think the intensity of energy, if we've been doing the work, you get sort of used to the intensity of energy. Your system adapts and adopts and moves with it. But if you're just coming into this work, the intensity of energy is going to be quite mind blowing,
Hmm.
literally for a lot of people. And that puts a lot of stress on a body that isn't acclimatized. So there'll be a lot of people having things like heart attacks and strokes and this sort of thing,
Yeah,
simply because their system isn't acclimatized
that's
to
right.
the frequency of energy, and these frequencies are going to get much stronger now. This has been ramping up all the time, but I think from here on in, there's a real sort of what I'm being shown is that there's a real climb in frequency, a real
Well, this falls in
elevation.
line with what that lady said too. And she used the example of Schumann resonance as a kind of as the marker. She said, okay, so let's say that tomorrow the Schumann's a 60, and you'll have you'll have the blast, and then you'll have a couple of days you recover, and then the next one comes and so on. But she said the next time it comes to 60, if you've acclimated, it's going to be much less, right? It's going to be diminished, and then obviously if it goes to 52 or 56, you're already, so yeah. And she talked specifically about the physical ramifications of this solar energy coming in, and in those forms, in many physical, really, I think if I remember correctly, and I'm pretty certain that nobody's getting out of that one. It doesn't matter how fast you're working, you're going to feel it. That's why, and you've heard a lot of people talking about all of a sudden they can't eat certain things, or they can't, there's just stuff going on like that. And then back to what I told Morgan this morning, I'm like, there's just a part of me that knows, I'm stocked up in organic produce for a reason. I got all the coconut water, and I think I'm just going to have to do this, and for no other reason. If I mean, I know there's more, but I can't take this. I can't take waking up like this. I'm very well hydrated, but I wake up and I'm just totally dry, parched, inside and out. And yeah, I think that I'm going to give it a shot anyway, because that's what my body seems to be saying, and I think that's why.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm just really like still taking in that whole thing about. I didn't know that the trees, because the trees are, to me, are that's what brought me in, and you
They're an
like everything.
amazing race of beings, aren't they? I
Yeah,
mean, they just hold and ground so much energy for us, and
yeah,
their energy field is huge. There's a beautiful yew tree where in this little park that's quite young, but but its energy fills the whole of the top field of the park. I mean, and I can feel myself walking into that field of energy of this
wow,
beautiful yew tree from 50 meters away, and and the trees love to be recognized, so they become like friends when you have a relationship with individual trees. It's very, very beautiful.
yeah, yeah. They've
And
been a
they really help us, to integrate these frequencies. So nature is the best support, I think, being around, in a park or on a mountainside, surrounded by plants. It really, really helps our own field to expand and integrate more. One of the things to look out for if you're feeling really overwhelmed by the energies, and we often will unconsciously sort of close our energy field off if we're feeling bombarded. We start to
yeah,
go into a defensive posture even without recognizing it, but is to take time to really relax the field and open it up to receive, so that the energy isn't battering you to get into your system. It's to
yeah,
recognize, oh, I might have gone into a defensive posture here. Just relax and receive. And that makes a huge difference. Other thing with the Schumann resonance, particularly because it's all over the place, is to connect into the core of the earth, and that stabilizes you at that frequency rather than the spiking and of the Schumann resonance, which can be all over the place and leave you feeling, really strange and destabilized if you're going with it. But if you drop into the core of the earth, that's a much more stable frequency, and it's changing all the time. But really anchor yourself there 2 or 3 times a day, and that stabilizes. Um, that will stabilize your frequency too. Makes a big difference. That so you're not battered and
like a
knocked
like a
around by the
like a
Schumann resonance.
pinball, like a
Yeah,
pinball in a
yeah.
pinball machine. This sister Manette, she said that so people have put up that YouTube link, and she says it's about the solar flare that just happened a few hours ago. So maybe that's why I woke up feeling the way I did, and just to give more, connect more dots with her comment. But yeah, the tree thing, like when you said that, it just struck me. It doesn't surprise me about you, but you don't see a lot of that. You don't see a lot of you see the Arcturians contacted me, and this is the channel, or Pleiade, but you don't hear, you don't see a lot, or I don't, about people talking about the trees and the thing you said about the recognition. For me, it was always a very natural thing because that's all there was.
Yeah.
Because the first couple of years I was homeless, so I did a lot of walking. I spent a lot of times in parks and at sanctuaries. But I remember I have a little forest back here. I told you, and when Morgan and I got the download, the download came in, and then we both discussed. We were going to have to geographically. She was going to go back to Australia for a while or whatever. Man, I sat out here for 3 weeks, and it was the trees. I mean, I went to my strength. I just sat there in a chair for 3 weeks and worked through that. That was the last time I've worked. In fact, that's the deepest I've ever worked with the trees. But yeah, I can't explain it. There's no words for it. I can't tell you how it was done. I saw things and shown things, but the 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 basis of the whole thing was just simply silence with the trees and surrendering to the trees. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, we share 70% of our DNA with a banana, for fuck's sake. So we are related. We are related to the whole of the plant kingdom.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really is a part of us, and it understands us and wants us to be a part of this world, an intimate part of this world. We have been in the past. We have, many of us have aspects of us that are nature spirit, that there was a separation. From my perspective, other people may have a different version of this, but 15,000 years ago, a group of nature spirits wanted to try being human. They wanted to give physicality a go, and so they um, made the jump, as it were. And we were much less physical, I think, back then. This was in Atlantis, a few thousand years before the real fall. And so a lot of us have aspects that are nature spirit.
Yeah.
A lot of us have aspects that are mermaid or unicorn or dragon. And I know that I have a lot of these different aspects as a part of my makeup, and I think most of us do.
Yeah.
We truly are a hybrid of many, many different elements and dimensions. And more of these things are coming online now, becoming activated. Our dragon aspects are very strong. The lion-headed being aspect for me is a very strong one. I had a flash once years ago of myself in an insect body, looking like an ant, and I knew that this is a body that I occupy in some other dimension, on some other planet or star system, and it wasn't one I particularly wanted to explore at that time. But I know that we are. It's like that bar in the Star Wars film. We
Oh
are
yeah.
really, really weird and wonderful mix and makeup of all sorts of different things. And everything here on this planet is available to communicate with us if we want, whether
Yeah.
it's the oceans or the lakes or the clouds. And we did a lovely piece of work with the weather beings. I don't know, a few months ago, because they were wanting some support. So the weather beings are, again, another team of beings that is really available for communication and interaction. just like everything else is, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And to me, the earth, the earthbound things, that's like, I don't know, there, to me, there's a fusion, like between the not a fusion, but like a fading into the non-physical to the physical.
Mm.
Like as time goes on, for instance, maybe it's that the non-physical becomes more physical. That would be a weak way of explaining it. But like this, everything that's like the trees, to me, it's like in my blood. Like it feels organic, it feels physical. Where the some other types of energies feel much more etheric. They don't. I don't feel them in my blood. The trees feel like my blood.
Yeah,
There's something, and maybe I was one of those 15,000 years ago that was, hey, I'm a tree. I want to be a human.
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
maybe. Or maybe you were a druid. I could quite see you as a druid,
yeah.
a
There's
couple of thousand years ago. That was
yeah.
the,
No, I'm sure. I'm sure that's in there. The
yeah,
druids, the bards,
yeah.
Templars, all that. That's probably where we've run into each
We've
other.
hung out with each other
But
before, huh?
ever since I first saw you, I see lion, like from the get go. I just, lion people, lion, you know.
Yeah, and they came in for me. Well, in 2010, they really started to push their way into consciousness, and then started taking me. I went off to see the white lions in South Africa, and this was a journey I didn't want to go on because it was expensive, and I was with a teacher I didn't want to hang out with, and eventually a lion in dream time told me, okay, we want you to do this, and I said, well, yeah, you're going to have to sort the money out then because I haven't got the money, and of course the money was there, within days, and we went on this journey, and it was a time there was a big volcanic eruption in Iceland, and the ash in the atmosphere stopped a lot of flights. So our flight got out, and the flight with a teacher that I didn't want to work with didn't. She was flying a day later, so I didn't even have to work with her on this 3-week journey through South Africa. But the whole itinerary was laid out. She didn't show up, so it was amazing, and there was this extraordinary transmission from these white lions. I mean, it was just unbelievable, like the purest starlight. Um, and I was quite cynical about that. Oh, fucking white lions, and I was a bit cynical, but I would, it silenced a lot of my resistance. Just sitting in the back of this Land Rover, as this white lion just lay down in front of the Land Rover and just stared at us. And I mean, it was the
Are you
most extraordinary.
serious?
Yeah, I
Wow.
mean, just so if ever you get a chance to go be with white lions. And I think the captive bred white lions are probably a bit less, they're probably holding a lot less frequency. These were quite wild out in the wild in Africa. And it was, Linda Tucker has written an amazing book about the white lions, and there's a genetic, they're reputed to be the return of the African kings. But from my perspective, they truly are star beings holding a
Yeah.
very particular set of frequencies on the planet. And
Well, the white
that
animals,
was,
period, like the
yeah,
albino
yeah.
animals. We had a guy on the other day, Jim N. Miller, and he's telling this crazy story about his awakening, which happened to 3 or 4 months into it. He ends up at Soulogy Fest. That's how I met him. So, but he didn't tell me this when I met him. So he's traveling on a road trip. He's in Northwest New Mexico, and they stop to get something, gas, whatever, and it's a town, and I can't remember the name of it. And in the town, it's at the base of a mountain, and there's all these wild donkeys, right? There's all these wild donkeys. Now he's having these incredible things happen to him, and he pulls in the town, and uh, and the donkeys come into the town. They walk the streets. They cohabitate with the people. It's just this extraordinary thing, right? So he's there, and all of a sudden, and there's all these people and donkeys in the town, and he looks up on the mountain, and this white donkey starts to come down the mountain, and it walks right through all the people, right up to him, and lays its head on his shoulder. And he has this whole thing go on. So there is something with these white animals.
Yeah,
that's
they
very,
represent
very, yeah.
the spirit, don't they? In a very pure form. I think they're a big tradition. I think all cultures have their tradition of white, whether it's a white whale or the white
Yeah.
buffalo, the white lions. It's
You know what's
yeah.
crazy is I wrote a poem on September the 5th or 6th of 2015. And I had met Morgan on September the 3rd. So it was maybe at 48 hours later. And I, go for walks often. So I go for a walk and I see this black panther, feminine spirit animal, like watching me and following me, and had felt it, but I actually was seeing it now. And and it ended up coming up from behind me and jumping out in front of me. And in front of me was, and I'd never seen it before or since. I've seen other animal totems of myself, and it was a white lion and this black panther. And they just start walking together. I just realized that. So maybe I got a
So
little
that's
white.
the
Maybe I got a little white line in me too. A little lion in me too.
yeah, yeah, I'm sure. And that's the yin and the yang, isn't it? The perfect
Yeah,
balance of the masculine, feminine, huh?
yeah,
The lion and the panther.
yeah.
Beautiful,
That
beautiful.
was her coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was trippy. It's trippy
Oh,
how
cool.
we've had things happen, all of us, and we were talking about this the other night too. How you have things, all these extraordinary, what can only be described as divine episodes. Some with a physicality, some with not. I mean, all the different, the whole gauntlet, and we forget. We forget how extraordinary these things were that have been uh, dotting, the path of our
Mm.
what we call awakening. You know,
Yeah.
like even a
So
connection like this, like even the telepathy that we have, which we don't really speak about, but it's just like you today going, I wonder if Todd's going to make it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you already knew, right? I mean,
But you do take that sort of thing as it just becomes integrated as a part of your normal, doesn't
yeah,
it? You know, and
yeah,
as a child, I was always a bit that way inclined. I would always sense the. I mean, I grew up in a crazy household, so you're on alert for sensing energies anyway.
right.
So there's purpose to that dysfunction because it does keep you primed for energetic sensitivity. And so I would always spot things that other people wouldn't wouldn't notice just because I was tuned into a more subtle level of energy. And as a child, I was always out in the garden, literally playing with the fairies. I was away with the
Oh, I
fairies,
believe
and
that.
so
I got a great picture I shared into the group yesterday. It was the best pictures of fairies I've ever seen, and I guess it was an artistic rendition or something. But just like when I saw the picture, I that's how I remember them right there.
Mm, mm,
They were very physical. They had very distinct features, and like you were saying earlier, I mean, I guess it's uh, these are our seeds, but these are our memories as much as there are seeds. Because I watch these history videos, or I watch Robert Sepper's. He's an anthropologist. His videos, and as I'm watching them, it's not just the content, but it'll be images, like
yeah,
images of hieroglyphs or just different, uh, you know, uh, things that have been created, like the Sphinx or other, other temples and stuff like that. I look at them and I'm like, man, I'm just getting like bing, 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 and I don't know, but I can feel things. Like I'll feel like, wow, I remember this, in so many words. So that stuff seems to all be coming out now too.
it's all
Uh,
encoded, isn't it? We are
yeah,
encoded with such a
exactly.
vast amount
Yeah,
of data.
that's right. That's the right
And a
word.
lot of that is falling away. A lot of the ancestral programming is falling away just to reveal the splendor, the beautiful stuff
Yeah.
that we have overlaid in order to pretend to be human for a few thousand years.
Isn't that crazy? That's a really
Yeah.
good point. Yeah. When I was watching his video last night, and the very last part was about that sacred sexuality and all that. Now I'm listening to this Tao master, and I'm thinking, God, this is what Morgan's been talking about with me. since I met her. This is what she's been downloading. And here it is in explicit terms. And I think the quote in the production was, this gentleman, this master, was the first to actually have shared this information with the West. And so he was in a small gathering. He was giving a presentation, uh, and I was like, "Wow, this is what she's talking about, explained a little bit differently, but very intricately." And I'm thinking, I got to remember this stuff. I got to remember this, or I'll get her to watch it, or we'll watch it together. And as I'm doing it, that what you said a minute ago, the realization that two things really: one, that it's all encoded, and that's all that needs to happen, because now I have this frequency. You know what I mean? That's now been revealed, or
Yeah.
uh, and so that's it. You don't need to tell her anything. You don't need to say anything, and how that works. And I think that is happening. I think this is part of the reason that this type of platform is what it is, because people hear things and experience things through what other people are talking about in terms of their own experience, recollection, memories, and so on. And that's all it takes. We don't have to instruct anybody. You just, you know,
No, I think
which is,
everything is becoming much, much more simple now. It's a lot of the froth has gone. We spent years working and working and working, and I think a lot of things are really purifying and simplifying now.
yeah,
And it can be tricky to let go of the activity and the doing and all of that
yeah,
sort of stuff. But it is. I'm intrigued to see what will unfold. Oh, certainly in terms of, if I'm going to be doing any of this work in the future, I am
I
still
know.
unsure
Isn't
about
that
that. But
crazy?
it's like, so what? What's next? What's
Yeah, isn't
next?
that
It's
crazy? I'm wondering about Soulogy, going, what's going to happen here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I know a lot of people must be going through that. Like,
I think
because,
because it seems a big time of dissolution and dismantling
yeah,
as we move into this preparation. This is what we've been waiting for. I
yeah,
think these
yeah.
times.
Uh, you said
Yeah.
something I wanted to make sure, and I just remembered before, because I don't want to run out of time. You said that you've had, and this is something I think a lot of people can relate to one way or the other, not necessarily that specific symptom, but you said you've had a fever during this period of, say, this 10-day period. What? Um, how did you approach that? I mean, how did you deal with that? Was it anything you had to give a thought to? Did you have to integrate with it, accept it, allow? I mean, and was there any thing on the other side of it?
There's always, whenever, and I really felt quite unwell for a few days, just physically very unwell, very tired, I ached a lot. It was like having flu. And I thought, because a friend that I'd hung out with, she had tested positive for COVID. She phoned me and said, "Oh, I've got," and I thought, "Oh, maybe I've got," but I was given a bunch of those lateral flow tests, and I did that, and I wasn't. And then I just tune into the body and the place where I'm feeling at my worst, as it
Mm,
were. I just focus into that, and I ask, what is this? What do I need to do? Is there something? And often, I think when we're ill, we assume that something is going wrong, um, and we fall into that perspective, when in fact an illness can often be something going right. It's our body doing something for us, and when the body does something for us, it usually does it very thoroughly in a way that we wouldn't be able to do if we were in control of the process. So I just surrender to it, and I literally visualize the heat as a bonfire, and I push I push stuff into the bonfire. So I just offer up, and always when I'm lying in bed and I'm sweating and I'm aching and I'm feeling um, unwell, it brings out my victim. I feel like a victim, I feel like a
Uh,
victim of the body. I feel sorry for myself. Oh, yeah. So I just push that into the bonfire and offer my victimhood up, and whatever else is coming up. And there's usually a load of shitty old sludge emerging from some hidden
this is the
corner that
real.
I have overlooked. And so I just welcome it up and just move it into the furnace, as it were.
I
And
love
trust
it.
that
This is
that
a
process
David
is
Manning,
is
the real ascension. This is the real deal here.
well,
Because it's all of it though. Like
yeah,
I mean, you're very sensitive. You got this incredible multifaceted connection. You've been in service. You've had your incredible transformational experiences with serious physical illnesses and diagnosis, and yet you're on your ass for the last 10 days having a bout with the body, and
yeah,
that's the real
and
thing, you know.
that's just life, isn't it? It isn't.
Yeah,
It isn't going to be ever perfect. And it's also like it's weird because I'm having work done on my apartment. The little dog that I've got, he had an operation. So there was chaos. And he needed care. The apartment was a mess. I was a mess. It's like there were builders in and out. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, this couldn't be more uncomfortable. There wasn't anywhere to rest, as it were. And so it just felt like the shit had hit the fan in just about every location of my life, and all I could do was surrender to it.
yeah,
And that's just how it goes. And I could also wander down to the beach and sit on the beach and just be bathed by these frequencies from the
yeah.
sun. And that was the best possible thing.
I think, yeah, my big takeaway to the with you this morning is tension. Like, I don't have a big problem with it, but everything is amplified and our clarity is becoming more pinpoint. So I
Mm,
picture that, like when you said you pinpoint in your body, the tension or lack of, I think could be felt as much as you know what I mean, is the tension itself. So I mean, that's something I'm gonna. And the other thing is, in talking to you and like you're in receiving or uh, observing the description energetically of what you're talking about with nature, with the trees, with the mountain, just the presence. And I know you weren't explaining it, in that way, but it was coming through, right? Well, I remember reading, and I'm going to find it. I'm going to send it to you. It's one of the Stoics, and I don't know if it's Seneca or Marcus Aurelius, and that's what he talks about. He talks about it in the sense like they used to write, like the man that does the man that does, but he talks about that thing that you talked about at the beginning of the show, where basically you allow that all that to encapsulate or you step into that with your own
mm.
personal timelines, and however you explain that at the beginning, that's so weird. I haven't read that thing in 15 years, and it just came to me right now.
Oh,
That's what
the,
that's
the
what you
the
were
the
saying.
bigger
That
plan, yeah, the bigger
Yeah,
plan that
yeah,
holds us
yeah,
in
yeah,
this. And it
exactly.
always has held us, but
Yeah,
now more than ever. I mean, I saw this literally so beautifully and so clearly when we were doing that piece of work over the new year, was that these big lines of energy that are anchored in the core of the earth and anchored in the heart of the sun, um, which represent the plan that flows between the sun and the earth. And it's the plan for the evolution of the planet, the evolution of humanity. And these are big, big lines of energy. And the little lines of energy, and of course they're important to us, but these individual lines of energy that represent our personal life can just
yeah,
slip into
yeah.
and be held by these big lines of energy. And then that takes the stress out of our.
I
We
like
don't
that.
have to do it on our own. We just don't.
I
And
like that. It's like I picture those big lines of energy like being big neural highways,
yeah,
right? And
cosmic neural highways.
and we
Yeah,
can take our little artery and find yeah,
yeah,
that's very cool.
yeah.
Damn, I don't know how every time we get together, an hour and a half goes by like in a snap of a finger, does
That's quick, isn't it? That is
it?
very quick.
I don't know about
Excellent.
you, but I'm gonna lay down to the next show.
I need to pee.
I love you, brother. Thank
Yeah,
you.
love you too. It's always lovely to catch
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
You take care.
Let's not wait so long. I know. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll be in touch. Yeah, no doubt.
And so we almost share a birthday, Todd, huh?
When is your birthday?
The 7th. And
Are
you're
you
the ninth,
shitting
huh?
me? So you're a what's that 13th sign of the zodiac? You're that like me.
I think it's a dragon. Is it a
It starts
dragon?
with an O. Yeah, it's somebody will know it. Osseous or something. I don't know.
Ophiuchius or
Yeah,
something, isn't
Ophiuchius.
it?
Yeah, you're one
Something
of
like that.
those. You're one of those people
Yeah,
like me.
I was. And
Uh,
so what you're 2 years older than me though, I think,
okay.
Todd.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. I'm older than everybody now. You know, I went to. I had to go open a bank account. I haven't had a bank account in God a long time, like a long, long time, like well over 10 years. So I went to the bank and I actually opened the account, and then I had to go back because I had to sign something or do something. And the lady says, "Oh, Mr. Medina, uh, I don't know if you're interested, but we have a free checking for senior citizens." I about shit my pants. I was like, "What in the hell?" You know, I thought, "Holy shit, for real?" 60 years old, man.
It's
Uh,
amazing, isn't it? It is
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, it's cool, man. It's good
Yeah.
seeing you. Take
You
care,
too.
brother.
Take
All
care.
right,
Bye
man.
bye.
I